you doing? You've just caught me making a cup of coffee. So, if you want to have a cup of coffee, why don't you just pause this video and go and make yourself one, and then come and have a sit down and we'll have a chat. Hi and welcome to my Isolated Christian videos. My name is Ian Campbell. Welcome back. Let's have a cup of tea and have a bit of a chat. I want to carry on from one of my videos. I want to carry on in the sense of encouragement, in that God wants to make changes to all of us. And I've said on all of the videos, you know, we're on a forced lockdown, but this is a wonderful, awesome time for all of us, not just as Christians, but for those who maybe don't believe. But this is a good time to get back to God. And I want to use the analogy of baking. Now, I'm certainly not a baker, I'll be honest with you. When I put stuff in the oven, it burns, so you know, I'm not an expert. But if you've ever baked those small cakes, you'll know that you get your cake mixture and you get it all together and you mix it all together. You get all the ingredients in the bowl and you mix them. You've got your oven on, your oven's getting nice and hot, and then obviously you put them into those little paper things that you put all your ingredients in, and you stick them on your tray, and then you stick it in the oven. You put it into the oven. That's you and me. And I can say that because God has put inside every one of us all these different ingredients. And there are a lot, like I've said before, there are a lot of things about you and I that we don't know about ourselves. And God has put all these ingredients inside us. And when you put the cakes in, and you put it on the tin, and you put them in the oven is set to a certain temperature, 200 degrees or 220, whatever it is. And once it gets there, that heat is going to stay the same. And it's going to stay constant throughout the time that those cakes are baking. So when the cakes go in, that mixture will sit in the paper cups. And after a while, it will start to change, and it will start to change, and then it will start to grow, and it will start to rise, and it will start to rise, and it will start to rise. And eventually you'll see the cakes rise up. And they'll rise up to a certain height, and then they'll start to go a slight golden brown, and then you take them out. But if you're somebody like me, and I suppose over the years, I bet all of you have done this, you've looked in there, you've seen them starting to rise, and you've opened the oven door, and the fresh air has gone in, and the cakes have just gone down like that, and they've gone flat. And you've thought, ugh, and you've taken them out of the oven, and they're no good. Or you've left them in that fraction too long and they've burnt. My point is this, that when somebody who's a baker will know that you have to mix all the ingredients correctly. You have to get your oven to the right temperature. And then you put the cakes, the mixtures in the paper cups, put them on the tin, you put them in the oven. There is a set period of time that you leave the cakes in the oven, and it's during that heating process. Hold on a second. It's good to have a cup of coffee while we're having a chat, but it's during that heated process, that constant hot heat that is never going to change at all. It's going to be a constant heat that surrounds that cake mixture. But it's in that heat, it's in that trial, it's in that testing that mixture that's in the cup that starts to rise and starts to change and starts to rise and starts to rise, and it starts to change shape, and it starts to turn into this cake, and it rises and rises and rises and rises till it gets to the right height. And then those that know how to bake properly, they'll watch and they'll watch and they'll see it, and they'll know when the time is right to take the cakes out of the oven, to take them out of the heat and to put them on the top, turn the oven off and let the cakes cool down. And when those cakes are cool enough, then they'll put the icing on the top, and then they'll put those little hundreds and thousands on the top, or they'll put whatever decoration they want. What I'm trying to encourage you today is that this time of forced isolation that we're in, this time of great panic, stress and change is going to happen, and God is going to allow it to happen, because right now, every one of us, you and I, we are in this oven, and you know, we are going to be sat in this oven for as long as it takes, and as long as the government decide before they let us out of our homes. This forced isolation is going to happen, and what I'm trying to encourage you with is to allow God, because God is allowing this to happen. As I've said this before, God could literally put his hand right across this and stop it if he wanted to, but this is a time that he wants to use to change you and I. He wants us in the oven. He wants us in this constant heat, because in this heat, the stuff that is inside you, the ingredients that are inside you and me that you and I don't know about, those ingredients in this time of testing are going to rise to the top. The impurities and the changes that God wants to make are going to be made. But we're going to rise. We're going to rise to the top like a cake. We're going to rise up, and God is not going to take us out the oven. You've got three choices, right? You've got three choices. You can either first take it out too early. And when you take the cake out too early, as I've already said, it goes flat and it's no good to anybody. You can try and eat it, but you probably think, nah, and you throw it in the bin. Or, secondly, you can leave it in for the right amount of time until it's ready to be taken out. And when you take it out and it's the right time, you then put it on the side and let it cool down. And then you put the icing on the cake. Then you put the hundreds and thousands of the decorations. Understand what I'm saying here? You put the decorations on it, and then you put it in front of people and say, here, taste, eat, and see that this is good. Or thirdly, you can take it, you can leave it in for too long. You can burn it. You can take it out of the oven, and again, like the too early, it's no good, and you throw it in the bin. You see, God is not going to take you out of this situation. Let me make this clear to you. God is not going to change this situation. God's not going to stop this. God's not going to change it in any way. He wants to change you. He wants to change you and me. He wants to change us from the inside. He wants the heat to stay on. And if you understand, like I'm trying to explain, I hope I'm doing it right. If you understand and you allow this to happen and you use it wisely, the ingredients that are inside you, the ones that you didn't know about, the things that you didn't know about yourself, will rise to the top. I'll talk more about this in another video, but there is lots in you that is hidden that you didn't know about. And this time of isolation, this time of heat and fire and trial and testing, this is the time that it's going to come out. This is what God wants to use to change you from the inside out. He wants you to rise. He wants you to rise up, and when it's done, then he'll take you out. Then he'll let things cool down for a bit. Then he'll put the decorations on you, and then he'll say, taste and see that this is good. That's what God wants to do. I hope you understand where I'm going with this, and I hope you feel encouraged by it. Like I said, God isn't going to change this, so stop worrying about, God, and praying, God, change this, stop this, and let us all get back. No, God wants to do his work. And when his work is done, and not until, and if you understand where I'm going with this, you'll understand this and welcome it as a time of change, and let the heat come on and say, God, change me from the inside out. And when he does, I'll rise up, and I'll be worth eating. And in the end, you'll be able to say, people, eat me, eat me. Not literally, obviously. We don't want to talk about cannibalism, but I'm talking about, I'm ready. I'm a changed person. I'm ready for God's use, because God's made some changes, because he kept you in the oven. I hope that's been encouraging to you. My name's Ian Campbell, the Isolated Christian. See you next time.